Hey, good evening, parents, or good morning or good afternoon, whenever you're watching this, but welcome to Curriculum Night. My name is Alex McDonald, and I'm teaching your children international relations this semester. Great group so far, trying to get more conversation, but I have some big goals, and then I have some specific goals. So my big goals I list right here, and I want the students to understand current events, have a basic global sense around the world and the issues that are impacting our planet. And as a subset of understanding that, they need to understand, of course, that people are different and that these cultural differences, these sociological differences are shaped by our beliefs and ideals, and that these have a direct effect on international relations. And then I want them to understand, and this is what we're really doing right now, we're diving deep, at least I think quite deep for a high school level course, into the fundamental theories of international relations. So the idea of these theories of international relations is to give a lens through which to see the crucial things, right? Because without these lenses, theorists of international relations believe, we get so bogged down in facts that we fail to see the big picture. And that these different, though competing theories, allow diplomats, diplomatic leaders, politicians, scholars to see the essentials, to see what's important. And then therefore use these theories as prescriptions to prescribe action going forward. So we consider these theories and these frameworks, right, in this second point, to consider how international relations theory can guide decision making. So I'm asking kids, it's actually quite cerebral right now, to understand these almost philosophical theories. I want the kids to understand that culture matters. That's the third point, this idea, and it does relate to a theory. This is hard for them to grasp. In fact, we're doing it just right now. The idea that at some level, to some degree, reality is a cultural construct. And how we see things in the West, for instance, or how people see things in China, are created by culture in ways that we don't fully even understand, right? It's like that David Foster Wallace thing about the fish in the water not being able to see water because it's everywhere, right? So sometimes it's hard to spot how culture affects international relations. And then, finally, to examine these cultural differences, and then in the context of international relations, and hopefully as a friend's school, it's always a goal to build, and I'm not paying this lip service, to build international understanding, tolerance, and empathy. Edward Albee famously said, "I write to find out what I'm thinking about." And I think that at some level is absolutely true, that a student isn't really going to understand or think through the ramifications of what they've learned unless they're forced to stop, think, and write. I just think there's a point coming soon where students are going to have to be facile with technology, not just as consumers, but as creators. I'm not talking coding. I'm just talking about telling a story in a digitally, visually engaging way. Statecraft is an online role-play simulation in which the students apply the theories they've learned and coexist or compete with each other. And it's not, and I don't say they have to compete, and I don't say they have to coexist. I make them states in the world, and they have to use the theories prescribed in class and make their country succeed. We'll play this once we launch it starting next week. The kids will actually play it about an hour and a half a week, and I'll give them a class period a week to work on it. That's a 50-minute block, but also they'll absolutely have to engage out of class. And the idea is to think like a diplomat, right? Which is in some level the core of this course, to be able to think, So one last thing, and you can see it here, I will make the kids, and you can see it there, State Department desk. Let me move this down a little bit. I'm going to ask the kids, the students, to role play the United States State Department. Now, what happens is there's a series of desks in the State Department. There's a Middle East, North Africa desk, a series of these bureaus or desks, and they're constantly churning out materials that ultimately get winnowed down again and make the president's daily briefing. Okay, hopefully, our presidents will take it seriously and really read this, but these diplomats are constantly churning through material. And what I'm asking students to do is write a daily brief. Okay. And I'll give them the template and how that works. But hopefully over time, I'm going to assign a couple of students to examine the Middle East, others Latin America, others Southeast Asia, Russia, and Europe, and so on. And then this is how the students, as we share this information with each other, get to begin to understand what's going on in the world beyond just a United States focus. Okay, now just a taste, and I'll be really fast about some of the theories and how we talk about it. So the biggest theory in international relations, or the oldest theory in international relations, and then just quickly modeling some of the things we do in class, is realism. And realists believe that the world is anarchy. There is no umbrella organization really keeping peace. The United Nations doesn't do that. If in theory it does, we know it doesn't. Right? So realists believe that in the end, the only thing that really matters about a state is how powerful it is. Doesn't matter what's really inside a state, it's just about how powerful it is. And realists, in this state of anarchy, a country has to look out for itself and ultimately can't trust other nations. It's really, I talked about how this started, back in the Melian dialogue by Thucydides. This is, 2,600 years old, this idea, but this billiard ball model of realism is that countries are just like billiard balls smashing around the table. The only difference is some of the billiard balls are bigger and heavier than others and can push their way around. Okay? So the contrasting theory to that, for instance, is liberalism. And liberals say, and this isn't liberals in the Hillary Clinton is a liberal sense. It's not Democrat, Republican. These are different, same word, means something different. Okay. Liberals in international relations say, hey, wait a minute. It actually pays to cooperate. And if you don't trust, in the long term, you're going to be worse off, not better off. But can you trust? So the famous prisoner's dilemma is liberals will point to and note that, of these two criminals, if they both confess to this crime, they both get 5 years in jail. Also know that if one remains silent and the other confesses, one's looking at 20 and one's looking at getting out free. But if they both were quiet, that the max they can get them on is 1 year. It actually is a win-win situation. Instead of both confessing, getting 5, if they could trust, but these are criminals, but if they could trust, they're getting 1. So even in this state of anarchy, in a world that realists point, there are no rules. If countries could agree upon some, we're all better off. So that, for instance, is some of the type of talking we do in class. I will share with you a link to my Canvas page. You've actually seen it. You're welcome to lurk around and see some of the things we do. If any of you have any background or interest or expertise in international relations and would like to talk to my class, I'd love to have you in. If it's a cultural competency or something about a different country you would like to talk to my kids, I would love to have you in. Email me if you have any questions. And I'm very much enjoying working with your children, and I look forward to talking to you. Do take care. Bye-bye.